And it's time. Hello and welcome to this Fantasy Football Hub stream. Me and Wes here, aka FPL Heisenberg. We're co-hosts of the FPL Double Up podcast if you're into podcasts, and we'll be annoying you here for probably about 45 minutes or so. Guys, if you're here, do us a favour, like the video, subscribe to Fantasy Football Hub for more content like this. And yeah, Wes, how you doing?
Yeah, well, good, John. How are you, mate?
I'm good. It's been a long enough week since we last spoke when we recorded a podcast, but it's getting there. Do you know? I'm really excited for football. It's been too long now without football. I think when you're English or you're from a nation which has a great team, it's wonderful. But Ireland, we got beat by Luxembourg, and I'm just sick of it. I just need real football back. This international shite's not for us Irish fans.
Yeah, even for me in England, it was like San Marino, which is just pointless watching that. And then the Poland game wasn't very inspiring either. So yeah, international breaks are pretty poor. The only international football I really like, I don't know if you're the same, John, it's when it's tournament football.
Yeah.
So obviously the Euros or the World Cup, the actual tournaments are great, but apart from that, I could happily live without international football.
I think I'm set to be a Sweden fan. Is that right? The guy Michael?
Yes.
Mikael?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
he's convinced me I'm a Sweden fan as it stands, I think, for the Euros or World Cup.
For those who don't know, obviously on our podcast, John was kind of looking for a team to support, and someone tweeted, it was like a 3-tweet sort of
He
thread
really
to
went
us, wasn't it,
in.
John?
He really,
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, great
Fantastic. Yeah, so yeah. And his, I think he said it was really interesting actually, because he said he's a 6th grade teacher in Sweden, and he's convincing his kids they're obviously all into football out there, and especially English football. So he's convincing the kids to listen to FPL podcasts as a way to sort of help them learn English, which I think it's just great. Yeah, it's just
very clever.
Imagine your teacher at school, like your homework, John, to listen to a podcast about football. It wouldn't happen at my school.
Yeah, no, I know. Geez, not mine either. But look, I suppose shout out to Ray and Rav, the first two in the house. How yous doing? Mr. Brown's here. Rich P is here. Our guy, FPL Nick. Chris El Famoso is also here. It's quite enough night, but Wes, look, we plow on. A lot of people will see this after the fact. Whenever you're seeing this, I don't know if I've already said this. I think I opened with it, but make sure you like and subscribe. I think I said that. But yeah, on the sort of hit list for tonight, Wes, we're going to look at different things for captaincy, transfer targets, obviously. We're going to look at how to navigate 32 and 33, which is a big topic at the minute. We've got some one-week punts. And as people can see, we're having decent seasons, you know. For us, we're both top 30k. We're both having a good time. So we'll probably discuss our sort of season history, how the seasons have went, what was good, what was bad, what we can learn from it. And then towards the end, we will take pretty direct questions from anyone watching. And throughout, we'll just keep our eyes on it. FPL SWAT, hello, how are you? Thank you for joining us. And thanks for your engagement on Twitter. And speaking of engagement on Twitter, if you're here, if you're enjoying it, help us get the word out a bit. We've been quiet for a couple of weeks now, like everyone has. We haven't really been putting this stuff out there. If you can go over to, I think it's Wes at FPL Heisenberg, you'll see it over there, and share his latest tweet sort of promoting this. But Wes, we'll start off, I suppose. I don't know, what do you want to start with?
I don't mind. Let's attack Gameweek 30. What's right in front of us? But just a little note on obviously what we're going to be talking about later on is I find that I've not really been very good at keeping data or sort of analysing my own seasons. So I want to do it this season whilst we're only partway through. I want to look back to like over our season and see, well, you guys will see it later, but me and John both started quite bad. John especially started really bad. Our boy Mikhail is in the
I see that,
chat
yeah.
about Sweden. But so what I'm trying to say is we've both actually started badly, but now we have decent ranks. So it's just interesting how it's gone, because there's some theories out there that, you know, to have a good season, you need to have a really good start. And John especially started, you know, first 4 weeks.
Started brutally.
Yeah, and now before this week, I think it was like 11k, weren't you? Now you've slightly dropped to 15k.
It peaked at about 5k.
Yeah.
And then like a Spurs fixture a couple of weeks ago screwed me. But
yeah, as always.
But yeah,
sorry, that's coming a bit later on, but let's go ahead and get into some Game Week 30 stuff.
So I've whipped up just my team here on Game Week 30, but looking sort of at Game Week 30 in a nutshell for me, if we're talking captaincy and transfers for each of us straight off the bat. For me, the captain is on Bruno there, but I don't know how I feel about it now. I think I was acting the big man on our podcast. I think it's realistically going to be between Kane and Rafinha. I was watching Will's video from Fantasy Football Hub, this channel, today, and he made a convincing argument for both these guys. And I don't know, I kind of said to you jokingly during the week, like, if you pick Rafinha, I'll pick Rafinha. I stand by
Yeah.
it. I don't know if you have the stones for it. Are you going for Kane?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm the stones for it either.
You've more on
I
the
don't,
line than me.
I know. Well, it's the thing is, I do actually think that they're good picks. I don't know what is fully drawing me to Kane. I don't know if it's a fact of, over my 6, 7 years of playing FPL, it's always been, hasn't it, to, 99% of the time you are captaining that expensive player, those premium Salahs, Kanes, Fernandez's, whatever, rightly or wrongly. But yeah, Rafinha, Bamford with a fixture like they've got this week, I'm definitely not going to put anyone off captaining those guys because they have got such a good fixture. Sheffield United looking obviously awful now, like even worse than they was. Wilder's left, a lot of defensive injuries, conceding goals, and Leeds attack a lot. So I really, really, really wouldn't be surprised to see those Leeds boys outscore Kane. However, I just find Kane really reliable. A lot of the stats I've been looking at as well in terms of in the recent game weeks, Kane's taken the most shots out of any player by quite a way. Kane's obviously got the added weapon this year of assists in his locker. He didn't really have in previous seasons. To add that to his goals, he's on penalties. I feel it's a safer pick, and I try and go for the safest pick each week. I guess again, rightly or wrongly, people out there probably do better on captaincy than me. But yeah, I'm on Kane at the minute, John.
Someone in the comments, let me get his name there, sorry, Daniel Robert says, and a shout out there to Andy Armstrong, Dwight Schrute, who's one of my favourite characters in any show ever, and Michaela, obviously, who we said to before, but Daniel Robert saying, Captain Dallas. And you know what? I like it. I do like it. Now, I'm not, as you can see, like, from our ranks, I know that sounds a bit pretentious, but, like, I'm not really chasing. I am chasing because I want top 10k, but I'd rather maintain than risk something like that. Like Captain and Dallas, they concede an early goal, which is well within Sheffield's, well within Leeds' ability, or within their wheelhouse. They will definitely, they have it in them to concede early. And, imagine that, and then some Kane goes and gets a hat-trick. I don't know, I don't have that in me. But anyway, it's not a bad pick. You've got the double sort of jeopardy thing there. You've got the clean sheet. You've also got the attack and returns against Sheffield, no less. Scott Sanders there as well, saying I don't have the stones. I do not have the stones for stones because Leicester are definitely scoring. You heard it here first.
Scott's my brother-in-law who was on one of our shows a few weeks ago, but he came on using his wife's account, so he was getting flirted with by all the blokes in the chat.
Yeah,
all agreeing with his opinion, thinking I was going to get some.
If you need any help, DM me. One of those. But yeah, look, for me, captaincy is, I just don't think of the stones, to be quite frank, and I think I probably will stay on Kane. But if I get a sort of change of heart tomorrow, if I hear anything, Rafinha is the next. Bamford can't be overlooked either ways.
Exactly, yeah, and Leeds haven't got a penalty in a while, have they? But I'm pretty sure Bamford took their last penalty and scored it, so he should be on. He's got the penalty factor that I obviously factored in for Kane. Son is looking like he's back this week as well. Actually, well, I don't know for sure. Tottenham just tweeted about half an hour ago some pictures of Son in training, with like a positive headline or whatever. So, my guess is, if Son's got a chance to be fit, Mourinho's going to play him, which is good for Kane's output as well. So I think early on in the week on the pod, John, I think I even said that sort of having Son back would sway me to, cementing that Kane captaincy, because the attacking force of those two together, how likely, Kane is to get an assist from just passing it to Son, etc., etc. That does cement it for myself.
Okay, you've convinced me. It's on Kane now, unless something crazy happens, but I just have to sort of bear in mind that you're only, 11k behind me now? Not even. Me and Wes have a bit of a side bet going on. Whoever finishes lowest out of the two of us at the end of the season has to paint the other person a beautiful portrait with paint, actual paint, and display it in their downstairs bathroom for 1 month. And I don't know, our girlfriends have probably forgot about it if we've mentioned it to them. It'll come as some shock, but it'll be good fun. Yeah,
they're going to be fuming. Just quickly to jump into the comments there, Richard said, any thoughts on Son captaincy? Obviously for yourself, John, I haven't got Son at the minute. He's, we'll speak about sort of navigating 32, 33 later. He's definitely on my watch list, especially now we know he's fit. And Rich has a good article on the hub actually. So yeah, guys, go check that out after this. and that's all about teams. Right, it's good. Go and read the article. It's going to be explaining it a lot better than I can. But it's interesting. He says that sort of Newcastle are weak down that side, so some could get some joy. So there's definitely some thinking there. But I do still think Kane is definitely the safer captain pick because of the penalty factor and how many shots at goal he gets.
Well, that and sorry to jump in, Wes. I mean, that's not to say Son gets 30 minutes and Bale comes on for 30 or something like that.
Yeah,
sorry, Son gets 60 minutes. Like while he's back, he mightn't be back.
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't know for sure he's going to play, and So for me, like you said, John, for that reason as well, definitely Kane for me.
The last shout, I've seen it in the comments here, and Scott Sanders, I think it was as well, and Rich is agreeing. Calvert-Lewin. Now, I think you mentioned to me beforehand that he's a strong enough option. What are your thoughts on captain and Everton against Palace?
Yeah, we was chatting off air, weren't we, about sort of, again, we'll come on to this section a little bit later on, but sort of 1 week punts for those, because there's a lot of people going to be wildcarding in week 31, so they have the luxury of just targeting one fixture essentially for a punt. And Calvert-Lewin, Chris Palace, I think Scott said about Palace receiving the most headed shots this season. Palace, in a lot of games I've seen Palace play, they've looked really awful. They obviously lost 7-0 to Liverpool that time. There's been a couple of other times where I've thought Palace looked really, really poor. Calvert-Lewin maybe back on form, scored a couple of goals for England recently, but then had a rest in the next England game, which is probably good. And obviously Richarlison's back on some decent form as well. So I think realistically, captain Calvert-Lewin isn't the shout this week when you've got the likes of Kane or Bamford or Bruno or Rafinha or whatever, because I think you'd be happy with some Calvert-Lewin points. If he goes ahead and gets a brace, you're going to be happy, John. You're not really going to be thinking, I nearly captained him, because it's still a bit dodgy, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I think on other weeks, grand choice. But I think on this week, when you've Newcastle for your Spurs guys, and when you've the Leeds who are sort of free scoring at times against Sheffield, even Bruno against Brighton. Personally, I would rather Bruno against Brighton than Calvert-Lewin against Crystal Palace, and that's a debate we could probably have for ages, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who disagree. But that's just me. So I think there are many, many options ahead of Calvert-Lewin. I'm just happy I have him because I think he's great for this week. But so in terms of captaincy, we're both, us two are pretty set on Kane. We've talked about some of the other big ones. There might be some that aren't in either of our teams that maybe I'm missing. Or people discussing the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool kind of takes out Salah, Man City, Leicester kind of knocks out a bunch of options. Chelsea defenders always a ballsy call, but I see a lot of people sniffing around Marcus Alonso, which we discussed. I thought Azpilicueta is probably the better pick there, but
I do as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Thoughts on Azpilicueta for Stones, Mr. Brown? I think it's a great move personally, but
and also I guess this is kind of has nicely led us on to the next section. Then, John, if we want to talk about sort of 1 week punts rather than captaincy, because obviously there are better with Spurs playing Newcastle, we haven't actually spoke about the opposition that much. Newcastle are looking poor. Obviously, Sheffield United are as well for the Leeds assets, but that's a good fixture for Spurs and Kane. Looking at 1 week punts for those of you thinking about wildcard in 31, doesn't affect me and John. We've used our wildcard and free hit, so it's not for us. But 1 week punts is an exciting place to be because you can go for those players who you don't have to rely on longer term. So you can go for so say your team's still on the screen for you, John. For example, for you've got Calvert-Lewin, but even if you had to have a 1 week punt on that team, you could even double up with someone like Richarlison, or you could go for that risky. You could go for that Alonso pick in the hope that he does play on the week that you want him, which is just this week. If it goes wrong, you wildcard next week, no big deal. Same with someone like Havertz for Chelsea or Mount. I don't like them long term. I think there's a risk of them being benched, so I'd only do that if with all these Chelsea assets that we mentioned, Alonso, Havertz, Mount, I would have a good bench option just in case. But West Brom obviously is a really nice fixture to target. For those of you like me and John looking at longer term options, then Azpilicueta's great. I've got Rudiger in my team that I'll probably keep. I will hopefully double up on the Chelsea defence with maybe, not sure, at some point I might try and squeeze an Azpilicueta as well for the longer term. But there's some good 1 week punts out there. So I suggest targeting the Everton Crystal Palace game for 1 week punt, the Chelsea West Brom game, or the Leeds Leeds assets. But the thing is, most people have got a lot of Leeds assets already. So
Yeah, I think the standouts, which probably, when I say 1 week punts, maybe they're not quite 1 week punts and a lot of us have them. If you don't have Rafinha or Bamford, I'd be going for them.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
have Keane, I'd probably be grabbing him, particularly with 32 in mind now. Son as well, I put in that bucket. Bale, I still am a bit funny about, but I'm going to have to keep now with that double in mind. But even the likes of United, if I have Bruno, would getting someone like Shaw in, or getting like, I actually don't know if they blank in 33. Maybe Wes. I don't think they do.
Yeah. No, the blankers in 33, just to remind everyone, are City, Spurs, Fulham, and Southampton. So, yeah, we'll talk about
We'll
how
get
to
on
navigate
that.
that soon. Yeah.
But anyway, United, sticking in. I don't even know who else, but if you wanted to have a wee punt there at home to Brighton, I don't think that's a bad 1 week punt if people are going at that. But
Yeah.
it's all squad dependent ways, because people could have all these guys and their 1 week punt is they have to go a bit rogue for their 1 week punt, but realistically, you're
Yeah.
probably not fitting them all in, so I'm probably chatting shite. But do you want to talk about game week 32 and 33? And sort of considerations and advancements in terms of fixtures and things people mightn't be aware of?
Yeah, exactly. Maybe they should be updated on the FPL site now. Maybe you could get up, have a flick through. But yeah, in 32, we've got a double game week for Spurs, obviously. And Crystal Palace blanked that week, but they're kind of irrelevant from FPL point of view at the minute. No one's got their assets. Maybe you've got a Tyreek Mitchell sort of hangover, but he'd be third bench anyway. No one's really got Zaha at the minute, and if you were considering him, don't, because of that blank especially. But yeah, it's more about the Spurs blank, and the difficult part is Spurs blank the next week. But then, Spurs double in 32, they blank in 33, but then in 34 and 35, if you look at their fixtures, John, they're really good. I think it's Leeds and Sheffield United, isn't it? In 34 and 35. So yeah, I'm considering triple captain on Kane in 32. That seems like a pretty much a no-brainer. I will judge it nearer the time based on Kane's form, or if he's played too many minutes or whatever. I think Spurs have a cup final the weekend after so where they're blanking that weekend, I think it's a cup final. Maybe someone could confirm in the comments actually. So little bit, my triple captain, I don't really want Kane to sort of be his minutes managed. I know he plays a lot of minutes, so it should be fine. And you can never, you can't really always guarantee, but Mourinho is going to want silverware, isn't he? We know that. So is he going to wrap Kane in cotton wool? I don't know. I hope not. But yeah, and the difficult thing is having, hopefully, when you look at the team, hopefully you haven't got the likes of a McCarthy, a Vestergaard, Areola for Fulham, Lookman for Fulham, Aina for Fulham, and then have, your triple City. Because you are going to want to have triple Spurs for their double, and then you're going to probably want to bench all of them the next week. So therefore, that's why I think it's an okay time to come off Man City and head for Spurs assets. I think you really, in terms of Spurs players, there's not many FPL assets that spring out at you. In terms of, most teams you can sort of pick some nailed on defenders or something, but they don't really have that. Kane and Son, you just basically have to have them, in my opinion, for the double. You already set up with that, John. I'll be getting Son next week. And my third Spurs player, I think that's the real dilemma here. The third Spurs player, like there's Bale, who might or might not be back in favour. There's Lucas Moore, who's looked okay recently. I think you tipped him a couple of weeks ago, John. And there is defensively maybe Reguilon, but I don't know if he's fit. Oh, sorry, rotation, blah, blah, blah. And so I like, for my setup, maybe going Lloris. So I might go Edison to Lloris for my setup.
Yeah, I think where this gets very messy is the fact that both City and Spurs blank, teams that people are pretty heavy on. For a couple of weeks now, we've been pretty bearish and pretty against City in many ways after they were amazing for so long, and we both had three of them for so long. It got to the stage where there wasn't just potential, well, you don't really calculate potential injury into account, but rotation is the big one. Rotation just became too much. There was a couple of blank game weeks. There was one blank game week anyway. When was the blank game week? Wait there.
This one just gone, wasn't it? 29.
29. Yeah. There's 33 now as well. There's the rotation. There's Champions League football, which throws another spanner in the works. They've got Dortmund there. Yeah. There's just so much going on. So for me,
I agree.
I kind of have Stones because I couldn't get rid of all of them, and I don't need rid of him, and I'm happy to have him there on the bench.
Yeah.
I'll play him in a strong fixture, and if he plays, he plays. And we kind of discussed that, at least with the defenders, when they play, they'll normally get 60 plus minutes. With the midfielders, you never know. But I would be very much. There will be people in a position where they didn't get out of City, and they've got maybe 4 or 5, maybe even 6 players when you combine the likes of Southampton in as well, Spurs and City, and you just really need to have your eye on 33. Maybe you have a chip up your sleeve to get you out of it, but I don't think it's a terrible time to get out of City anyway, and it's probably a good time for Spurs. Now, Spurs do blank. My plan will be to bench and probably go back to Kane and Son. I'll probably get rid of Bale.
Yeah.
Or I was actually, for a long time, I've been thinking about what game week was I originally planning, pivoting again from Kane back to Vardy. That's something I've been planning for a while. When I say a while, like 2 weeks. Let me just check Leicester's fixtures.
I guess if the best time to do it would be in the blank then, when Kane blanks, if you are going to do it.
So that was a plan of mine. I was going to pivot on 32 actually, but now I could save that to 33 when Kane blanks.
Yeah.
Now this isn't. I am aware that the player on the screen is Luke Thomas. I just clicked someone for the fixtures. Going over in 33, and then you've got Palace, Southampton, Newcastle, albeit a tough finish, but
yeah,
I think Spurs have a bit of a turn there for a couple of weeks. No,
just to jump in there, John. Actually, yeah, you're right. In terms of Leicester's fixtures, there's a fixture switch for coming up in sort of 31, 32. There's a nice fixture switch to a lot of the teams where we haven't got a lot. They're not very popular players at the minute, but they do switch. And like you pulled up Leicester's fixtures there, and from 32 onwards, West Brom, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Newcastle. So that's a perfect time to jump on Vardy or maybe even Iheanacho if he's still nailed on. I am a bit worried once Barnes is fit, once Maddison's back to fitness now. So I'm a little bit worried about Iheanacho. I know he's a cheap striker. I know he's obviously doing really well, and I'd love to be confident in him. But yeah, I think I'll judge that in that same week actually, John, where you're looking at a Leicester striker, or I've got sort of Watkins who's disappointing me, so I might pivot from Watkins to the likes of Iheanacho and hope that he is nailed on now because he's done so well. I might take that risk. But yeah, you're right to target Leicester because their fixtures are looking really nice. So it depends what position you're looking for as well. So if you are looking for a midfielder, then someone like Maddison could be good once he's back from injury properly.
Now I'm looking at it, I think I kind of had it imprinted in my mind differently. We all do this, where it was probably off the back of a week when Kane blanked that I got this plan in my head. And now they've got the double here. And while they do blank in a 33, after that, Sheffield, Leeds, Wolves, Villa, I'm going to want Kane. So maybe realistically what I'll actually do, and I'm thinking this is the new move, is Bale out, maybe DCL out, maybe Bamford out, but one of the other two strikers and Bale out, and then bring in Vardy and downgrade a striker. That might happen. I don't know. I'll play it by ear in a few weeks. I don't like to plan too far ahead, particularly in a season like this, but the bottom line is there's options after 33, or on after that game week 32 getting into 33 to shift on at least one of those Spurs guys. So you don't need to be benching all three plus your City. You could keep a City guy and get rid of a Spurs,
Yeah, I think for your situation, Bale's the one for you that you want to get rid of because of how rotation risky is. But with the good thing with Spurs now, obviously they had that European disappointment. So they're going to be out of Europe after their cup final, which is the same weekend as the blank. They're going to be just focusing on the Premier League. So from there on out, Kane and Son. I think Kane and Son are probably going to stay in my team for the rest of the season once I get Son. Because like you just brought up their fixtures, they're looking really good. So yeah, if you did... And it depends how you feel, John. Vardy might not be essential. Maybe, like you said, you can get that cheaper option, Iheanacho. It's just got to play it by ear. If Vardy is a player I do definitely like, I like players who are, it's going to sound really obvious, but are consistent all the time and over a long period of time. And Vardy is that player. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, Wes, we'll talk a bit more about that if you want to. Game week 32, 33, if there's any more thoughts. But just before we do, shout out Michael, maybe it's just Michael Van den Heuvel says we're legends. Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. And it's great to see everyone chatting in the comments and helping each other out.
I love that.
So fair play to you. I think I've already said it, but again, just make sure you drop that like and subscribe to the channel. Really helps. And Wes, is there anything else on 32, 33 you want to discuss, or have we kind of discussed the blank and the double and considerations there?
Yeah, I don't think so. I guess it's just a lesson in earlier on a few weeks ago, John, me and you both had the options to choose from those cheap Southampton, Fulham options for, certain players, maybe an Areola, blah, blah, blah. We decided not to for this eventuality. And now we're in a good position where we can easily navigate this 32, 33. And likewise for yourself and me, getting rid of a couple of our City guys on the way as well has really helped. So yeah, no, I think pretty happy. Just bear in mind that you're going to be wanting to bench probably Kane and Son for that week. So yeah, moving out City guys isn't a bad idea. right now. I'm looking, just to give people a heads up, I'm looking in the future to move out Gundogan and Edison next game week. So I'll be going without City, and my City boys are going to be on my bench this week anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty much Cityless now for the rest of the season, I think.
There's a few questions about chips here. If you had a wild card left, if you had a bench boost left, if you had triple captain left, we don't need to go into all of them, right? But
Yeah,
just ones that'll be considered by a lot of people. People will be looking for a triple captain to use. They'll be thinking, when's best to use this bench boost? I've already been asked that a couple of times, even in DMs this week.
yeah,
There's different questions like that. So bench boost, triple captains, wild cards. I think a lot of people are going for kind of 1 week punts here, have the crack, and then 31 wild card out of it. But
yeah.
so I think 31 is almost the meta wild card. There might be other times it makes sense. I think with a big double potentially coming up down the line and stuff. But bench boosts and free hits, what are your thoughts?
So,
Sorry, not free hits, triple captain.
Yeah, so triple captain, I'm looking to play mine in week 32. I kind of touched upon it earlier.
Yeah.
But I think I'll play that on Kane in 32 as long as nothing drastic happens. In 35, there's going to be another big double, according to Ben Krellin. So again, he can explain it better than me, but essentially there's going to be a lot of teams who double in week 35. So what I know, again, one of the guys watching, Rich P, in the comments, is his rough plan is to wildcard in week 31, keeping an eye on those teams who are likely to have a double in week 35, which again, Ben Krellin set out for you, and picking players from those teams. So when week 35 comes along, he's still got a decent double team. Whereas I know some people are kind of wildcarding in week 34 to optimise for 35. But I think I like Rich's tactics better of wildcarding sooner rather than later and just keeping one eye on it, because there's still, you don't want to neglect these next 4 or 5 weeks just because there's a big double coming up. You want to be getting those points on the board now, because game weeks are running out. We're in 9 game weeks left of the season. So yeah, I guess if you still got your bench boost left, that big double is the best time to do it if you get a lot of double game week players and a lot of good players in week 35. But yeah, don't worry too much about chips. I don't think chips are the be all and end all. Like, John, how much did your triple captain get? Maybe was it like
I think I had it on
an
De Bruyne
eight pointer?
Like 18 or 19. I think he had a 7 or 8 pointer, yeah.
7-8 pointer, yeah. So if triple captain didn't exist, that would have been your normal captain. So you only got one extra score on that. So your triple captain trick got you, say, 8 points, which isn't the be all and end all. And likewise, my triple captain over the years, my best season where I came 836, I triple captain Kane, who blanked and got me a 3-pointer. He had a double game week. He was on the bench 1 week, and he blanked in both games.
How much does it keep you up at night thinking if you'd have chose that right, where you would have came?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm always
Glass half full.
thinking about like the whole big picture, because you could think like that, but I obviously got some good slices of luck that season and some good decisions that got me the points. So it's just one of those. My bench boost mistake keeps me up at night though, John. So
yeah, it was a brutal one. In fairness, that was a brutal one.
I'll never forget about that. But no, my overall point is, don't worry too much about chips. I think they get overhyped, and they're obviously good. You want to try and utilise them as much as you can. Of course, when I'm obviously doing triple captain Kane in a double game week and hope he goes crazy. Of course I am, but yeah, they're not the be all and end all.
Absolutely. And captaincy, as just a little side topic, is one of those things that pisses us off about FPL, and I'm really getting into it because I play a lot of other games where captaincy maybe isn't such a thing, and this whole the captain is annoying because I hate not cheering my player. And we talked about this, we've talked about it a couple of times. We talked about it with General before, maybe as a bigger segment, and I don't want to dwell on it too long, but it is annoying, because captain, because of effective ownership and your rank going down when your player scores because he's not your captain is annoying. It really is.
Even in week 29 for yourself, John, you captained Rafinha, who outscored Kane, so it was the right decision, but you had to watch that last game of the game week having transferred Kane in, and you actually wanted the player you transferred in to
blank.
Yeah, so you wanted the decision you made to be the wrong one. It's horrible. I'd happily scrap captain.
I don't think it adds to the game in terms of engagement, in terms of like conversations outside Twitter. It's a big topic, obviously, for a lot of blogs, for a lot of videos, etc. But in terms of actual skill, I think it just adds more luck. It just adds more luck into the...
Especially the triple captaincy. Like, I remember I think it was a few years ago, I think Kane did mad one against Leicester away, and that was part of a double game week, and he got something like, for triple captain, he's got like 93 points or something. So that game that could have like really swung it in like quite an unfair way, in my opinion. And another thing, I've been having conversations again with Rich, who's in the comments, who said that he's going to be in that double game week coming up in 32. He's going to have Kane, and he's going to have Kane captain, but he's going to be possibly cheering against his own captain because his mini league rivals, who are just below him, have triple captain left, and he knows that they're going to be going for Kane. So it's like you can't even cheer on your captain some weeks, which is that is just shit, isn't it?
Yeah, that's mad. Right, there's a topic very quickly before we go on. We're gonna have a look at season kind of histories and stuff, and we're gonna just take a few questions. But I've seen Salah and Jota mentioned in the comments, and it is actually a big topic.
Yeah.
I'm hearing on podcasts and stuff this week, and I maybe haven't got into them because I don't have them. You have Salah. What are your thoughts on the Salah Jota debate? Again, we covered this during the week in our pod, but you know, I think the thing here is they're in such different price brackets. It doesn't need to be. It can be and, not or, if you wish. It could be both, because I mean, Liverpool have some amazing fixtures to finish with.
They do, yeah.
Do you know, Salah again, and rightly you said to me when we were talking, like he's had a few bad game weeks in a row, like 5 of them. But he is still one of the most consistent point scorers there is in the game, in a good team, somewhat great team in recent seasons, but good team this season with great fixtures, and he's on penalties. It's like it's a ballsy tough move to get rid of him, but
it's one of those Salah versus Jota, and a lot of people are considering maybe Trent again, who's had he might not. Sort of, you hear Trent in a minute, you think, really, this season? But, you look at the fixtures, they're good. Trent's coming into a little bit of... He's created the most chances of any defenders over the last... I can't remember what the exact stat was, but him and Luke Shaw were near the top of, like, chances created for defenders over the last maybe 4 or 5 weeks. So he's coming into it a little bit. The worry with Liverpool is their fixtures are good, but they are going to be concentrated on Europe, I'd imagine, because obviously they're still in the Champions League, and they're nowhere near in the league, so... Are they going to be wrapping certain players in cotton wool? Maybe. So I'm kind of looking at the Salah on my team now on the screen, thinking, I wish I didn't have him. I was, I toyed around last week, but -4 in him out for the likes of a Trossard, a Bale, or a Lookman, or whatever. I didn't do it in the end, but like you said, John, it is an and, but I do want to see some more. Consistency from Liverpool. I don't know what you think about Liverpool at the minute, but because they're not Liverpool of old, until I see that, I want to watch a game and think, right, Liverpool are back, and therefore I can trust Salah more, and therefore Salah can be like, Salah's in my team, but he's 12.5 million. I'm not going to captain him for the foreseeable. So therefore it's kind of like, what's he doing in my team? Jota is probably where, say if I was wildcarded this week or next, and I wanted a Liverpool midfielder for whatever reason, I'd probably go for neither, to be honest. But if I was going to go for one or the other, I might lean towards Jota for that money saving if you needed that money elsewhere. And it doesn't matter too much if Salah's blanking so many in a row and he's taking up all that budget. So, it's a tough one. I think maybe they're both a wait and see.
I think for me, if you have Salah, I'd probably be keeping him. But if you have neither and want coverage, I'd be going for Jota. Do you know?
Yeah, it's a good point.
But... That said, if you have Salah and you want money to distribute elsewhere, grand, but it is going to burn you a transfer. But if you want to burn that transfer to have 5 or 6 million in the bank, I get it. I think it's very much... It's one of those that I don't think there's a right answer, and I think everyone's just going to have to make up their own decision, because
100%.
It's like a 50-50 to me. I don't feel there's a clear answer here. And I think it's all so situational on team budgets and team structures. I think there's a lot to it. And it's very hard to give one grand answer. But bottom line is, Salah's the consistent guy who's out of form, that could flip at any time. And if it flips, we have 9 great fixtures to the end of the season. Maybe 8 of them are great, 7 of them are great, whatever. That said, there could be rotation with Champions League, X, Y, and Z, and Jota's there for much, much less. And he's been great when he plays and he gets goals.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
He's good for Portugal. It's like...
Yeah, I really want to double down on, I fully 100% agree with everything you just said, and especially doubling down on that factor you touched on about you're burning a transfer, and I'm very much of that thought process where I'm very careful with my use of transfers. Well, when we put up our histories, you'll see that both of us haven't taken many points hits this year, therefore we haven't taken as many transfers as most managers, and I treat my transfers quite precious, if that makes sense. And another thing I wanted to double down on what you said as well that was really good, but it's slipped my mind now.
Probably just the whole thing.
So I think it was, yeah, I think it was what you said about there actually not being a right answer. With a lot of FPL dilemmas, there's not actually a right answer necessarily. It's about how you want to play the game and how you want to go about it. And it's not as if you. Sometimes there is a right answer. If someone's come to this week and said, "Shall I captain Lloris or Kane?" I'd say Kane, of course, 1,000,000%. But yeah, with this one, there is definitely nuance to it and many different ways you can go. There's no right or wrong answer.
Right. Well, as we go back over, you were kind enough to send me over screenshots earlier, and I was working all day, so didn't get around to putting them in. But I can whip up the game week history. I hope it's not too small for people on their screens. But we've got all your game weeks here, and I suppose we can start at the top. You just kind of want to discuss briefly, I think, neither of us had amazing starts to the season in particular. We turned it round, and where we are now, mistakes we've made recently, mistakes we've made at different parts of the season. And just that kind of grander FPL scene and kind of mentality, I think.
Yeah.
So go forward.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm not sure. I'm just waiting. I'm a bit behind on the screen I'm watching, but hopefully it's not too small for you guys to see. It is a little bit small, but we'll roll with it. So in terms of, if you see for me, like the first sort of, 6-7 game weeks, I was really languishing. Game week 1, 700k rank, and then game week 2 went down to like 1.5 mil and stayed there for like 6 weeks. So I think my early season team was poor. I think I made a lot of mistakes pre-season. I don't know if you put up my game week 1 team, John, and we can all laugh at that. But I want to bring it up for a reason as well, because I want to learn, and I'm very I'm determined to make a better, to build a better squad.
You see, when you I'd be interested to see mine. It's probably not far off that.
I've looked. I think yours is worse.
Oh no! I think I had Salisu. You know.
Yeah, we'll bring it up. But yeah, I'm just waiting for mine to load actually on the screen. But I'll keep talking.
Well, you've got McCarthy, Doherty, who's had a shit season, Alexander Arnold, who's had a shit season, Justin, who was a monster but got injured, Mitchell, who was great when you had him.
Good at the start, yeah.
Aubameyang captain was the biggest mistake. Like, it was the biggest red herring of the season, you know, those first couple of weeks.
He scored that first game week as well. Yeah. I think it was a nice goal away at Fulham. But and obviously Salah was the pick there. I think he got a hat-trick. But looking at the team, there's certain players I don't regret, because someone like Mitchell was good, 4 million defender, and at the start of the season we needed that money. He was just cheap, and he started a lot of games for Palace, so he was a great pick at the start. And Justin was fine. Alexander Arnold, again, you can't really predict that the season he'd have. I think he had COVID in the summer, didn't he? He had, we know most people have Alexander Arnold. I don't regret that decision. Doherty, I do regret, because he was a new transfer to a new club and a new manager and in a new system. Obviously at Wolves, he played wing back rather than at Spurs' back four, so that was a mistake. Aubameyang, I stand by that decision, because to be fair, he's moved back to midfield. He's off the back of a really good season. Again, he's had personal problems this season. So the ones I do regret are Doherty, I regret. Perez for Leicester, I really regret. And I remember even when I was picking him near the start of the season, I knew he was a rotation risk. But I think I got convinced by some pre-season friendlies or something that was a definite huge mistake from me. And who else? Saka. Obviously, Saka's been a good asset at certain points of the season, but it was too early to jump on him at the start of the season. He was a rotation risk at that point. Webster and Smallbone on the bench, they were kind of just cheapies that I'm not too regretting. And the other ones I regret, Wilson, again, I was fairly happy with, because he was a proven Premier League striker and he did okay. Ings as well, couldn't really predict that he wouldn't have a great season. But Werner, I regret as well, because I wasn't going to go for a new signing to the Premier League. I didn't believe in the hype. I think I very rarely get convinced by the hype. I'm very
I was the same on him. I was exactly the same.
I'm usually very strong-minded. I usually like to play my own game and not listen to the hype. I did get sucked into that, because there was so much hype, and so much good hype, to be honest, because of how good his stats were in a good league in Germany. So yeah, I regret. I think I made mistakes in Werner, Perez, Doherty, and Saka. The rest, some obviously don't look like good assets now, but they were all decent decisions. I don't regret some of the decisions.
Well, look, so, yeah. I've pulled it back out now. You'll have a bit of a delay. I'm back out to your game week, so it kind of was up. You were as low as what, 1.5 million, 1.6 million nearly, and then you went on this rampage of like 10 green hours in a row from game week 7 to 16.
But you'll see there, I didn't do anything drastic at any stage. I didn't take any big minus hits, unless it was normally it was for a reason, like a double game week or something. You can see in one of those. It's not quite on my screen yet, but there's a column, John, like in the middle-ish, that shows you how many transfers you've made, or the cost of it as well. So we're both fairly similar in that we haven't taken many hits. So I hear it a lot. People like after 6 game weeks, they'll come to me and say that they're doing really shit, they're doing this, they're doing that. And so was I. Look, I was after 6 game weeks, 1.4 million, but I kept just playing my game, plugging away. There's always plenty of time in these early stages of the season to bring it back. And I think I've played the season well to get where I am after a bad start. And yeah, so I was hoping there's some learnings there from, you can have a bad start, you can carry on, play your game. The way to do it isn't to necessarily chase differentials. It's not to do point. You don't necessarily need to do massive points hits. Sometimes your team's not in a bad shape. They've just, let in a last minute goal, or someone like James Justin for myself. I had him for many weeks where he was blanking. But I was watching the game, seeing how attacking he was, and then it all came together for James Justin, and he did really well. So there's plenty of examples like that. So
the big mistake of the season here that people, like you can see here, game week 18 going into 19, you made 0 transfers, and that was because if we look at game week 19, you meant to play your bench boost, and you had 4 8-point players in the bench worth 32 points.
Yeah.
And you basically, you had an absolute howler. You didn't hit bench boost. You meant to hit bench boost. And it brought you, on that week, from 43k to 202k. It was an absolute killer. Yeah. But if you look at this, actually, you just got back on the horse, albeit the next week you had to do 3 transfers for the -8. But after that... I think
you're reading that slightly wrong. The -8 was actually for the bench boost that week.
So that was that week. Sorry, my bad.
Cancelo came in, Fabianski came in, and someone else. And what I did is actually line that team up properly, as in Cancelo with the double game week, you're going to start him even if you're not bench boosting. So I think I had a 3-5-2. The Leeds guys didn't have a double game week. Those are the guys on my actual bench. I thought it was saved because I think you click bench boost, it goes all green. And I did it last minute, like about an hour before the deadline on the morning. And didn't click save. But yeah, like you said, again, it is a big learning point. So I made a howling error, like you said. It's never done anything like that before, but I made it. It's done. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't fix that mistake by making more mistakes. So I think after, like you said, John, that was a -8. I was obviously trying to play the double there. I was bringing in players like Fabianski, who had a double. I was bringing in Cancelo, blah, blah, blah. After that, it's a bit small on my screen, but I don't think I made many points.
You've only took 1 hit since.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't go, there's nothing I can do about that. I had to swallow it. I had to accept that I'd made a huge error. And not only that, my actual 11 players I started that week had a shit week as well, so it just compounded my misery because I had I was kind of thinking, well, hopefully I can somehow still get a green arrow, blah blah blah. But I actually had a shit week, regardless of the bench boost fuck up. Carried on, plugged away. I played my bench boost in the next double game week, whenever that was. When was that? 26 maybe? I don't know.
26. It was a big one, wasn't it?
I think so. But I played the bench boost later on, and I would have got 32 points, but I ended up getting 25. So because I still had my bench boost, I had a second chance, a second bite of the cherry, and I minimised the damage essentially done by not doing it, if that makes sense. So yeah, just plugged away. What am I trying to say? If you make a mistake like that, or if you have a bad game week, there's no point chasing it and making more mistakes to try and fix it. People fall into that trap of like they feel anxious and like, I need to. My team's shit, like I'm falling down the ranks, therefore I need to do, let's take out all these players who are actually good players, they've had 1 blank, and then bring in these players. No, just calm down, play your game, keep going. And yeah, so that's another good point, John. I actually completely balls at my bench boost, completely my own fault, and I'm still having a decent enough season at 26k.
Yeah, you'd be over the moon with this. I think I asked you whenever you were around that 200k, 150k on the way back up, I said, would you take top 30k now? And you said yes, so...
Yeah.
When I'd asked you that earlier in the season, you told me to fuck off. We'll have a quick look at mine.
And then you took over. Yeah, yours is even more interesting than mine. Actually, I'm really looking forward to talking through that. So
I don't.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Joe. Go on.
No worries. I can zoom in a wee bit. Basically, I had an absolute howler of a start. 2 million, 3.2 million, 2.6 million, 2.5 million, whatever. I think I wildcarded in game week 3 or 4. Yeah, game week 3 I wildcarded because of, actually it'd be funny to look at my game week 1 team. Game week 1, after consulting some of the best minds in the game on live streams, I went with McCarthy, Ayling, Walker-Peters, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, Aubameyang, St. Maximin, Salah, Ings, Werner, Mitrovic, Nyland, Saliba, Gordon. Where did he go? And Saka. Like,
Yeah.
jeez, too much faith in youth there. But the only, like, all them, whatever, a lot of them are budget. I was kind of bullish on the youth kind of trend there with Saka and Gordon, that. But the likes of Timo Werner's the big regret, because I really didn't want him. I loved him as a player in Germany, but I wanted to see him at Chelsea. They brought in it wasn't even like he was a transfer to come in and complete the team. It was wholesale changes. But every time I went to not get him in, I'd hear the hype, and the big thing I would think of was Dimitri Payet and Andre Ayew. Remember the season both them came into Swansea and West Ham, and they were both new players, and they just ripped it. And it was from that season
it can happen.
that I kind of was like, it happens, you know. Anyway, that was game week 1. Game week 3, I completely pivoted. We got Martinez in early, stuck with Trent. Bit too much faith in Liverpool there. Mitchell is a budget. Walker Peters was solid for a long time. Lamptey was solid for a long time. Justin was solid for a long time. You'll remember the Podence phase. Click was on penalties. De Bruyne, Fernandes, Rodriguez, who was on fire.
Yeah.
Stuck with Werner too long. It was the biggest flaw of my season. I should have had Kane in. DCL and Jimenez. But not long after that, I got on the Spurs train. If I click on to, I don't know, game week 6 here or something, I imagine. No, still with them. Game week 8. Yeah, game week 8, there we go. Kane's in, Son's in, Grealish is in. We're having a ball. Chilwell, remember his few goals he got and stuff.
Yeah.
But basically started climbing, and as you can see there, between game week 20 and game week 7, there was one red arrow. It was amazing, but I was still behind you prick. And then kept going. Couple of very small red arrows, more greens up to 7, 8 at the peak. And I've kind of been struggling to maintain rank since, and I'm out of chips. But
let me just jump in, John, and say, so you were struggling. So you wildcard in week 3, 5, so that's obviously wholesale changes. But from then on, your first points hit of the season was actually in game week 12 as part of 3 transfers for a -4. And then again, you didn't take another minus till game week 17. In game week 19, it was -8, but I think that was again game week dependent based on doubles. That
was the bench boost one.
Like
that was the same bench boost, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you've just taken a -8 recently with game week 29 with obviously the blanks in mind. But my point is, even when you had such a shocking rank and you built up from that without doing anything drastic, you built your team, you watched games, you made it better, with 3 transfers. And I'm not actually anti points hits as a player. Like, I know plenty of managers do lots of points hits and do well, but I'm more against and strategic points hits, like aggressive points hits to target certain game weeks, are great. Like we both did the -8 ready for the double game week in 19, for example, like we just said. But my point is here, you didn't panic and start trying to make more mistakes after a bad season. You played it very calmly, and you knew there was a long time to go, and you just kept making transfers. And the climb is sensational. From 2 million, even game week 4, 5, even game week 7, you was 1.3 million, and now ever since game week 19, you've been at least. So game week 19, you was top 72k. Game week 20, you was 47k. And from then on out, you've been at least top 60, 70k. And in more recent weeks, obviously much higher than that as well. So, hopefully... Yeah, sorry, go on.
I'm going to give you the most shameless plug of the whole fucking world. I'm never going to live it down. So, game week 9 was the first podcast we recorded, right? And that's kind of around when it started turning. So, I went from, in game week 9, the rank of 441k, and I'm now sitting at 15k. If anyone hasn't signed up to Wes's Patreon, go and find the bastard, because I get it for free every week recording a podcast. Honestly, this is the highest I've ever been in a season, and genuinely, Wes, I put a lot of that down to you, because, well, it's also creating content. You know, you talk about it every week, but it's the know-how, and it shows that anyone who doesn't follow FPL content, at least, if you're not you've navigated me through so many little weird kind of blanks and doubles and wildcards and taking a hit because it's worth it and that type of shit. And everyone loves picking players. We say this. We always say this. Everyone loves picking players, but it's the game. Do you know, there's ways to optimize the game, and that's what really boosts your chances of a high rank.
Yeah, I think that's what you've learned maybe this year in terms of you are obviously very knowledgeable about football, all the European leagues, Premier League as well, and obviously you're knowledgeable about what players are good for fantasy football, of course. But there's a way of, there's like it's almost impossible to describe. It's like week by week you have to dig a little bit deeper. Like when we record the pod, it's like before we start going on air, you'd say to me like, I'm going to do this and that, and then by the time the end of the pod came around and we've chatted later on in the week, you realise that, and actually by saving your transfers till later on, making decisions closer to the deadline, you've changed your mind from the Monday, Tuesday up until the Friday, and then therefore made better decisions because you've put in that extra thought into it rather than just the amount of thought that you thought was needed. You had to put that little bit extra into FPL. There's more to it than meets the eye in order to get a good rank like you've got now.
Absolutely. Well, Wes, look, I think if anyone has any questions, now's kind of the time to throw them, and we'll try and hit them head on.
We'll do some quick fire questions as they come in. Try and be quick because I just love rambling on, and I'm going to be quick and concise.
Right, I'm going to have like a buzzer and I'll shout if you talk too long. But 10 minutes we'll say. Just a topic I'm seeing in the comments here about Haaland. Haaland, if he goes to Man City, do you know, you could see Raiola there putting him in the shop window, going around with his dad. Haaland off to Spain today, do you know, doing the Real Madrid and Barcelona rounds. Like, honestly, it's one of those that because I watch so much European football, I don't know how much people who are just kind of into FPL know or see of him. You all obviously see him in the Champions League and hear the stories, but like, he's just unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. If he came to the Premier League, I'm dropping everything. He's coming into the team. Yeah.
So John, in comparison to someone like Werner, who had, this is me playing devil's advocate, by the way. I know the answer, and I'm a big Haaland fan over the likes of Werner. But there could be people drawing comparisons. They'll say, Werner in his last Bundesliga season before joining the Premier League, how many goals did he get? Was it like 32 or something?
A lot, yeah.
So, I'm asking the question, is this Werner 2.0?
Could be. Do you know what? It's a very fair point. I think in terms of a career, in terms of an actual player, in terms of his stature as a man, in terms of his ability as a player at his age, in terms of everything, from watching Haaland, I think the sky's the limit. Deal. I really do think, like, I genuinely, if I had to put my balls on the line here, and I know everyone says it and it's almost cliche now, and the generational talent and all this bullshit, but I really do just see, it's everyone sees it. I'm not like some guru here. Everyone sees it. It's Mbappe and Haaland are the new Messi and Ronaldo for the next 15 years, and that's just the way it's going to be. And I don't see either of them slowing up in the next few years, particularly Haaland. But the thing to be aware of with German football is that, as a friend of mine, Enzo, always says, it's just pure vibes. Do you know, it's goals. It's not a defense-heavy league. They just score goals. It's nothing but vibes, baby. Do you know, it's great football to watch. That's why the likes of Lewandowski was on to beat Gerd Muller's record from the 80s of 40 goals. That's why Werner, as we've seen him at Chelsea, can score 30 goals in a season. So I wouldn't take just the goal record. It's the ability, and actually when you watch the player. And even I wouldn't maybe actually bring him in first game week, but I think like as a player he would be amazing to have in the league because he's got a Zlatan-esque sort of vibe to him in terms of
a bit of arrogance is good.
The arrogance, the banter. Anyway, I'm the one who needs the buzzer here, Wes. I could talk about him all day. So what was our actual first question, Rich? Would you do Watkins to Bamford? I think you asked this already and we brushed over it. Sorry about that, Rich. Would you do Watkins to Bamford over Dunk to Azpilicueta for a 1 week punt? I think it's a more exciting one.
Yeah, and assuming you can get, so this is sort of a more general question for other people to like get something from. If you can get out 3 good defenders, and Azpilicueta is probably going to get 6 to 9 points, like 9 with bonus points. I'm talking, so that's kind of his ceiling, his limit. Whereas, Bamford against Sheffield United, I'm scared not owning him, to be honest. So I think I'd do that 1 week punt. I think, I'd do Watkins to Bamford.
I would, Do you know, it could be one of those where Watkins gets a goal or two, like, and whatever. But I think as an exciting one, you'll be shitting yourself more about not having Bamford than you will about not having Azpilicueta. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of your own mental health, get Bamford.
Yeah.
Odegaard or Lingard.
Who's Lingard?
Lingard. That's that youngster from United, isn't it? Anyway, that's that's just the shittest joke ever these days. Anyway, Odegaard or Lingard? Thanks for the question, Lars. I would probably it's Lingard at the minute.
Yeah.
Just with his scores he's been putting up, but Odegaard looks very exciting.
Yeah, and I think we know what we're getting from Lingard a bit more than Odegaard at the minute. We know his minutes are more secure, and yeah, for me it's Lingard as well.
Good stuff. What 2 keepers for the rest of the season when I'm using my bench boost in game week 34? I seen Rich say above that Leno and Martinez rotate well, if you care for that, but
I've seen that as well. And it is, if you look at those two, you can actually cherry pick fixtures based on the opponent, and you can have a keeper against a poor opponent every week for the rest of the season. But yeah, what 2 keepers? Rest of the season work on my bench boost. So I'd be looking at Mendy for Chelsea just because I'd want that Chelsea defensive coverage, and he's the best way of getting a nailed in asset. A bit like my tactic when I got Ederson early on in the season, didn't quite work out for City, but I wanted that nailed on City defensive asset whilst they were looking good defensively. So we like Mendy, and he's not really priced like a real premium keeper either. He's only maybe 5'3", 5'4" now. And who else? Maybe Martinez. Again, I don't know the rotation, but I think if you have Mendy and Martinez, you're going to have a decent enough keepers to pick every week, regardless of. I'd play Martinez every week, I'd play Mendy every week, so you'd have really 2 good keepers. You can bench boost them both. But also, go ahead, Daniel, and look at the Ben Crellin's fixtures to see who. I think it's going to be 35 you might be talking about. Was it 35? I don't know now. But yeah, look ahead to those doubles and pick 2 keepers who are likely to have a double if you've still got your bench boost left. It's not something I'm too hot on because I don't have a bench boost left and I don't have a wild card or anything. So yeah, have a look ahead to those and try and get 2 keepers who have a double.
Techers TV has 2 questions. He's just popped another one in, but he was next up. Is Neto a good pick? Fixtures over form, and he says below Cody or Sice for Wolves decent fixtures? ? So after this week, which is West Ham, which is a tough fixture for Wolves, I would say. Fulham, Sheffield, Burnley, West Brom, Brighton, 5 great fixtures. Nice. But for me, they're just a bit flat or something. They're just a bit blech. I don't really want their defence. I don't really want their attackers. As a filler, Neto 5.7 enabler, he's the only one I'd probably look at. And I don't even like it. I think there's better options, personally.
I do as well, John. I think there's better options. And maybe we're missing a trick because the trick with FPL is obviously to get on players, before they become a bandwagon. And maybe these Wolves guys will because of their fixtures, but yeah, I'm just not really sold on Wolves at the minute. I think they're having a transition season. They've lost, obviously, Doherty. Who else have they? They obviously have Raul Jimenez has been out for like most of the season. I think maybe someone else I can't remember, but they finally switched to playing. They don't always play 3 at the back anymore, do they? Or at certain points of the season, they actually switched to a 4 at the back. So what I'm trying to get at is, I don't love Wolves, but I do love those fixtures. So yeah, if you do fancy them, then go for. Cody's looking a little bit more tacky these days, and I guess he's more nailed on than Sace. Again, I'm not too hot on. Wolves have been off my radar for so long, I just don't know.
Well, that's the thing. But I think that almost says it all, but they've been off our radars for so bloody long because they've been so bloody mediocre and shite.
Yeah.
That's the way.
I think we've both said before about how, again, away from FPL, what a great footballer, a great young footballer Neto is. Imagine if Neto was English right now, he'd be getting so much press because of how young he is and how well he's playing for his age. So I do like him. Could he come good in FPL? Yes. So if you're a risk taker, if you're chasing in your mini leagues, they are good picks because of those fixtures. I'm not interested in myself personally, Wolves guys, yet.
Yeah, I'm the same. But look, we can eat our words. Chelsea have Shevchenko, Werner. They definitely have, Scott. Saka and Martinelli, you mean? Don't know who, maybe he's replying to us, someone else. Anyway, my bad. Shouldn't have read that out. Thanks, Daniel. Ray Brath was on about Haaland there. Trent for a 1 week punt. Not for me. Against Arsenal. Nah.
Arsenal, no.
There's better 1 week punts. Get a Chelsea defender or go somewhere else in the pitch.
Yeah, or go Leeds, go Everton, maybe Luca Dean, Crystal Palace at home. Luca Dean could cross one in for Calvert-Lewin header because obviously Crystal Palace have conceded a lot of the headers. And Trent later after this game week, think about Trent. So that sort of suggests to me like this guy's got a wild card. So yeah, look at Trent on your wild card. Why
have none of these guys hit the like button? Says Brett Payne. Good point. I've said bloody so many times. Good fucking point. Go and hit the like button. Do us a favour. Come on. It actually helps a lot, so please do. Right, will we take another one and then wrap it up? That'll give us a solid hour, Wes. Pick
Yeah,
one.
let's do it. Rich has said both for -4. No, no -4 for you, Rich, because you're wildcard in the week after. Don't waste 4 points.
Get out of town, Rich.
Yeah, in my opinion. Crazy to bench Salah this week from Jason Hubbard, and he's listed as 7 other players. And we've got a fairly similar setup, actually, me and this guy. Not so much up front, but yeah, I'd say no. I think it's okay because he's off form, and your other 7 attackers, like you just pointed out today in the comments, are good. I've considered it for my team. I'm not going to do it. I think I'm benching Gundogan myself again. But I might regret that. You know, who's to say Gundogan won't start and do really well? So yeah, go for it, mate.
I think, Jason, do you know what? When you look at that, he's the one. Gundogan, maybe. If City got Leicester, he might get rotated.
Then they've got Dortmund midweek, haven't they?
I would be playing Salah over Gundogan personally, but
I am for my. I've got that a similar dilemma, and I am playing Salah over Gundogan myself. However, obviously, football's a game of opinions. FPL is, and I wouldn't say you're crazy to bench Salah this week.
No.
It isn't Salah of 2017-18 season.
Yeah, it's different, and I think for me, it's just risk versus reward here. No, it's like Salah is going to play. Well, is going to play 90 minutes because he should really be playing 90 minutes. He's on penalties. Gundogan might not necessarily have penalties. He probably won't play 90 minutes. He might, but he probably will get 60 or he'll get 30. He'll be one of those who's rotated. I don't know.
Quite possibly with Pep, yeah.
So yeah, Jason, it's actually a good. Do you know what? It'd be a good screenshot. Look, I benched Salah and he got 2 points, and you look like a hero. So I'd go for it. But yeah, look, Wes, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Big thanks to everyone for watching. Really appreciate your time. Hopefully you got something out of this for your game week. If you did, it would mean the world to us if you could share it, or even just a wee comment about it on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, your WhatsApp groups, Discord groups, Slack groups, wherever you happen to be. Say, oh, just watch those 2 dickheads and they were great. Or you can say something much nicer than that. But that's kind of the biggest thing we can ask them to do, Wes, isn't it? Just kind of share it and get the word out.
Yeah, share it, because this has obviously been a live experience, but it's also will work. Most of the content will work after the fact. So yeah, share it for us and help us get the word out, get the views up. So like you've said before, John, so Hub have us back. Otherwise we're gonna get cancelled.
Jeez, I know, we're getting close to it anyway. Hub might cancel us with this many viewers, so yeah, do us a favour, lads. But look, big thanks to all of you who've been so active in the comments tonight. It means a lot, and thank you to everyone who's liked the video and subscribed to Hub for more content like this.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
We'll schedule next week's stream shortly, so keep an eye out for that. Wes will post it on his Twitter. You can find it just to the bottom right of his face, and that's mine just there on Twitter. So, Wes, chat to you next week.